It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley are here. Lots to talk about this week, including the upcoming Microsoft events and previews of what Paul and Mary Jo think Microsoft might be talking about. Gears of War 5 is out, apparently very successful, and .NET Core 3. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 639, recorded Wednesday, September 18th, 2019. Cortana on the down low. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Microsoft Mechanics, the official show from Microsoft for tech enthusiasts, IT pros, and software architects. Get deep dives from the engineers behind the tech, or just learn the essentials of the latest from Microsoft. Visit aka.ms/WWMechanics to watch and subscribe today. And by IT Pro TV. IT Pro TV provides IT training that's effective and entertaining, with access to virtual labs and practice tests. Visit go.itpro.tv/Windows for an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. Use the code WW30 at checkout. And by Capterra. Find the right tools to make an informed software decision for your business. Visit Capterra's free website at capterra.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Windows World, aka Microsoft, with these two. Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com, Mary Jo Foley of allaboutmicrosoft.com. Well, I haven't been here for weeks, it feels like. Did I?
Yeah. What have you missed?
What have I missed? Oh,
We'll
what
catch
have
you
I
up.
missed?
Weeks of speculation, Leo.
Finally, concluding in an invitation.
Right. Okay,
That's right.
everybody look at the invitation.
Oh.
What do you think it is?
I think we talked about that the last time I was here. About
No,
No,
that
this
was
is a
the
different
save the
invitation.
date.
Oh, that was
Right.
the save the date. Now they've
Yeah.
got
Well, it's this. You're talking about the thing that looks like the pyramid from above.
Yep.
They've used that kind of imagery a lot. It's like the carving out the magnesium to make the Surface logo.
Right. Yep.
You know?
I figured it was something to do with the sizzle video they're going to show about the new Surfi.
Yeah, they're going to chop it out of the mountain and deliver it to the humans down below
Exactly.
Mount Olympus.
I'm
Yep.
looking for the new invitation. So this is not.
Yeah, look
the
at
one-
the first link.
See, I
I've
saw
got
this
I've got a
one-
I
picture
saw
of
the save the date, and let's just show.
it. No,
that.
this is the tune in to see what's
Oh.
next.
Oh,
Leo, actually, you know what you might have missed was
what?
the last time you were here, we were speculating about the outline design.
No, that was
Yeah.
that was. So I missed that there was another invite now.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
actually what you also missed was in the wake of that, because we came out with like 40 minutes of ideas. This guy on Twitter goes, it's just the date. It says 10:02.
Oh,
And
I
when
still
you look
disagree,
at it-
though.
Oh, you're
It's more
kidding
than
me.
that.
Well, that's literally
More
all
than
it is. It obviously says 10.
disagree.
Oh, it says
Highly
10:02.
disagree.
It does. Hey, I can't show it because they don't have the switcher right. John! Hey, John! Fix the switcher, please. I need to show this beautiful.
But if you're
save
familiar
the
with
date.
Surface marketing videos, you will have seen this type of thing where they, with some fine precision tool, they cut through, I guess, magnesium, and they do like a fine chisel edge, and dust is left over. It looks a lot like this thing. Like this
It
is
does.
this is telling us, I think, that there's going to be hardware, which we kind of already knew.
Yep.
All right. I would show it, but
I think.
I am currently. Thank you. They've pressed this. So this was the one that you said is obviously 10:02.
I
It
think
is
there's more.
obviously okay, but it is obviously the date.
Obviously
It
is the
There's a
date,
1.
but
yeah.
There's a 0. There's nothing. Or no, that's another 0. And that's
Yeah.
a 2. Yeah, you can easily make this 10:02. Okay. Here's the invite. Tune in to see what's next. It looks like something got broken.
yeah.
What
Yeah, I think
the-
it's something.
window?
I think it's something getting built.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the magnesium deposition process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's laser.
What it looks like is we just used sonic imaging to find a new Peruvian pyramid or whatever
It's
in the jungle.
Chichen Itza.
Could it be something to do with CPUs though? That's some people speculated that.
It
like,
has
is
a
that
little bit of a kind of a CPU silkscreeny kind of
right? Because we think there's going to be AMD and Qualcomm, right? So it could be referring to chips somehow. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's definitely hardware related. I mean, it looks a little bit like the traces on a CPU, back in the day when you could actually just see them. They were just kind of
To be honest, it's butt ugly.
Yeah, it is terrible.
It just confirms what Steve Jobs said about Bill Gates all those years ago.
Wow. Wow.
He's already drawn the line
Gates
in the
had
sand.
nothing to do with this.
Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, neither of them really involved, but
I think it's fair to say they were both right about each other.
Yeah, that's true. I think they were. So, okay, so this is the invitation. October 2nd is 2 weeks from today.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're going to cover it, but it's in New York again, so that means it's a 7 a.m. start time.
Yeah. It is going to be streamed.
It will be live streamed.
I know. That's nice. They didn't do that last year.
That's exciting.
Yep.
I couldn't see Panos Panay rip the laptop from Paul Thurrott last year.
And you know who else is rumored to be there is Satya Nadella.
Well, he's been everywhere, for crying out loud. He was at the Samsung event. He might as well be
not at this thing, though. Last year, he wasn't there.
Oh. Ooh.
Right. That's
Speculation runs rampant.
Bradley Cooper was there, as I recall.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper.
Do you remember that, Paul?
It was so funny. He was in the back of the room.
Bradley Cooper was
I'm sitting next to Paul, and he pokes me, and he goes, "Turn slowly. Look who's here." And I turn, and I'm like, "Who?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Bradley Cooper." I'm like, "Who's Bradley
that?
Cooper?"
Is he at a Microsoft executive that I have never heard of?
No, he's friends with Panos' brother is in Hollywood.
Oh,
Right.
It has something to do with making motion pictures, and he's friends with that guy, and so he happened to be in New York. He just
we got a free Surface.
He brought his
for you
child.
If you just stand in the back. He didn't sit down though, right?
It was a little weird.
It was a little.
It was.
We don't like to see our worlds collide, do we?
No.
No. We don't want Hollywood types to be real people. We just want them to be up there on the big screen.
Yeah.
So are we going to see so I think the most interesting rumor, which you can debunk, is that there will be a dual screen something or other.
Right.
Doohickey.
Centaurus.
Is that, you think, credible? Or is that wild speculation?
So my guess is if they show it, it'll just be a glimpse, and it won't be like we're announcing this today and it's going to ship in a month. It's not ready. It's totally not ready.
They shouldn't even talk about it.
They shouldn't.
No.
Well, okay, but again, this is probably came up when you were gone, but one of the interesting things about this event is the timing. And with this year and Microsoft splitting up 19H2 into something kind of different and making 20H1 kind of a big deal, now that 19H2 will have happened by the time this event occurs, this might be a nice time to talk about the next major release of Windows. And
that's a
that
theory.
would be the version probably where dual screen support occurs, and maybe it forms the basis of Light OS if that's happening anytime this century. So I don't expect Microsoft to say, "Hey, look, we made a dual screen device. We're calling it the Surface Butterfly or something." I don't think we're going to see that. It wouldn't surprise me to see a prototype or a video or something, or to say, "Look, this is where the industry is going." We know that PC makers are working on these things.
Yep.
Microsoft has never had a third party at what we think of as a Surface event. So I don't really expect to see like Dell or Lenovo or somebody there with their own stuff. But that would be more likely than Microsoft saying, "Look, here's the Surface, whatever.
Centaurus or whatever it's called, right?
Yeah.
So there's two reasons this device even exists in our imagination. One is they actually showed it internally to staff members, right?
Right.
Leaked out from that.
Yeah.
And then I think there's code, isn't there, somewhere?
Well, the code that keeps showing up is WCOS, Windows Core OS. It shows up in a lot of references. And has to do with Windows Lite, and we think that'll be the operating system for Centaurus, but we're not positive.
It doesn't have like dual screen capability built in, that kind of thing, or
well, that's what Santorini, if you remember that code name, is. It's the foldable shell piece of code that will sit on top of Windows Core OS.
So that
So
exists.
anybody who's making a Windows device that has foldable screens is going to need Santorini.
Okay, so that already is out, and
it's not out.
Oh, but people are aware of it.
Yeah, we all know about it.
With regards to the CoreOS thing, I don't remember which site it was. I guess it doesn't matter because I'm about to make fun of them. But there was someone had posted an article where they said something like Microsoft documentation proves that the innovative CoreOS exists.
That's a good one. I like that. I clicked that.
Yeah, there's nothing innovative about it, for one thing. Going back, I just know this generally, but in going back and sort of going over the history of Windows, I'm reminded of the fact that as long ago as the early to mid 1990s, Microsoft started working on, we often say componentizing, but really modularizing Windows to make it more acceptable on a variety of device types, right? Because this was the whole information at your fingertips thing that Gates came up with, and he wanted Windows everywhere, right? So postage stamp size little things, embedded devices, portable devices, real PCs, set-top boxes, whatever. We are very familiar with various times in history where that work has gone on explicitly. During Longhorn, for example, they did it again after Vista to make it less heavy. This has been an ongoing thing, and so we had the one Windows thing from the
One
Windows
Core.
10 beginnings.
Yep.
One Core.
Windows One Core. Yep.
CoreOS is just another name for the same thing. Like, we've been doing this forever. Windows CE 1995 was based on NT, worked with a subset of the Win32 APIs. They've been doing this kind of thing for a long time. So seeing words on a document page doesn't really mean anything. Presumably LightOS is some subset of the full Windows OS that we see on PCs. It's somewhere between that Core OS and, you have to add stuff on top of it to make it a thing. Surface OS, whatever Surface Hub, whatever the OS is there, is much like Windows 10. HoloLens, much like Windows 10, whatever, but not real Windows 10.
Yeah. Right. I know.
We get caught up in stuff.
We do.
That's
everybody gets caught up in the hype about this, right? Like, you're like, okay, one core, they almost got to the point where there was a common set of stuff that worked on all devices, but they didn't get there, right? Like, the idea of write once, run anywhere didn't happen really with one core, right? So now they're taking another shot at it with Windows Core OS. So the next HoloLens 2, HoloLens 2, Centaurus, and Surface Hub 2X, the next Surface Hub, all of those are going to have Windows Core OS in it, we think. Right. Now we'll see. Is that going to do anything? Right?
No, I don't think that means anything. The next version of Windows 10 will have Windows Core OS in it. Like, I think it's just part of it. I don't think that's the thing.
Right.
I think it's just part of it.
Yeah, it's one piece of the puzzle, right? And then the part that's more exciting is the shells, right? Like the idea that you'd have a composable shell that could be, suited for a particular device type that would run on this Core OS thing, right?
I like
so there'd be like,
that sounds cool.
Yeah, Surface Hub shell, HoloLens shell, blah blah blah, right?
This stuff, it's funny because you said write once, run anywhere. The old Java slogan. This has been the dream forever. Yeah. Literally, later on in the show, we have a little dev segment. We're going to talk about two things that are literally this exact idea again, applied to different platforms. It's interesting. Like, this is the ongoing thing. We'd love it to be this way. And the way it works today, I'm sure there are very, someone who's going to target HoloLens with something specific to HoloLens. Yeah. They don't necessarily need to have a version of that app that runs on PCs, that runs on Surface Hub, that, we don't have phone anymore, that runs on Xbox, whatever. They may have another version. There's always some advantage to 70% of your code or 80%, whatever the number is, will work on both platforms, and then you have to do some platform-specific stuff to address HoloLens specifically and its unique features, or Surface Hub specifically, or whatever it is. That's the reality. It's not write once,
right? I know.
Or run everywhere. You have to. It never really. It's the dream. It's not. I don't think it's really fully realized.
No, agree.
Ever.
I totally agree. So then we come back to the event, right? Like a lot of people are saying, oh, you know what? This is the perfect event for them to explain Windows Core OS and Light and the shells. I don't think this is the perfect event to explain this.
This is more a hardware event, right? This is a hardware event. Is that?
Mostly hardware, though not completely hardware.
Oh, okay.
The problem is the next dev event is not until May.
The next dev event is in May next year, right?
So I guess I agree it's not the logical place, but in the time frame, it sort of is the right time.
I know.
And so what I always think about, and I really wish they were like this again, is remember back in the day, any version of Windows, any new platform coming down the pike, the first news would come out of WinHack. Because WinHack at the time was all about device driver writers and hardware makers, and this version is going to support, FireWire or some new ESP thing or whatever it is. Some innovative, like a screen that's going to be on the outside of the laptop lid or whatever. They never did it. So the next one after that would be the dev show, which back then was PDC, but eventually became Build. And that made sense because the next people who need to know about this stuff are the application writers.
Yep.
And then they'd have the general purpose beta and press releases about the features and whatever. And it was kind of a logical progression. But we don't get that anymore. In fact, we don't get anything anymore because these guys don't talk about anything. How does an entire Build show go by without any mention of any of this stuff? It's anything.
Yeah. It'll be, I'm very curious if they do somehow attempt to explain this at this event, how they package it up, because these kind of events, they're trying to be like a consumer event, right? I mean, do consumers even know or care what the OS is or what a composable shell is? No, right? But your developers care and your ISPs care.
The one thing, so the one, I agree with you. You're right. And if I were betting money on this, they're not going to talk about any of this stuff. But the one little thing I just kind of throw in there, we talked about Core OS as kind of the technical underpinnings of what we think will be Light OS. You talked about the composable shell, which in some ways is like a write once, run anywhere for UI kind of a thing. Yep. But the third piece to this is the applications. And to me, that's the most important thing. So in other words, when I think about what could Light OS be, what subset of Windows is it, really what we're talking about there is what does it run? What are the apps, And I feel like if you look at the next version of Windows as this 9 to 12 month thing where we're kind of preparing for it, there's going to be new devices that will be announced at CES. It almost makes sense to prep people for this kind of stuff because, you can have these apps that run today on whatever the computer you have now, but maybe in the future you'll have this innovative new thing and your apps will all come over. Maybe that's the story. And what subset of those apps? Like store apps probably, PWAs, whatever. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Me neither.
I just ran there are apps in the Chrome web store that are actually remote desktop apps. So they're running a desktop version of GIMP was one of them, and probably running on Linux. And they kind of broadcast it remotely to your Chromebook. So you're getting the full desktop experience of this app. So of course you got to pay for the service. The app is free, but you got to pay for the connectivity to their backend service or whatever it is. Will there be something like that? As a bridge, right, between the past and the future. I don't know. I mean, but it seems like at some point they have to start talking about this.
I would think they do, but I'm not sure this is the place.
This event is more like an Apple event in the sense that this is about announcing hardware and exciting consumers about the fall hardware line.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, honestly, the biggest problem with my theory, or maybe what I want to see, is that Surface as a platform, as a hardware platform, is not exactly leading edge. So, they will still not have embraced Thunderbolt 3. We're talking 4 years later by the time this event concludes. And so it would be kind of a weird juxtaposition to look at our old-fashioned hardware. And by the way, we're thinking about the future, over here with this crazy platform. I mean, they can't even ship Thunderbolt 3.
So let's instead of saying what they can't do, let's say what we think they will do at this thing. So we're still speculating, right? But The rumors.
Yeah. Well, we've heard there
right
were
now
rumors,
there are rumors, right? So one thing that is widely rumored, is an AMD-based Surface laptop, possibly 15 inches, that's aimed at consumers, right? That's one rumor a lot of us keep hearing.
So AMD, why?
Price, probably.
It's expensive. Does it suffer in performance?
It shouldn't. I'm pretty sure the modern AMD processors, especially in this machine class, because this is hardware that doesn't have a GPU, like a dedicated GPU of any kind. So you're just going up against quad-core, 8th generation or newer Intel, Core i3, i5, i7, whatever, 8 or 16 gigs of RAM. I mean, it should be fine. The trouble Microsoft has had is that when they went the premium route, it just didn't go very well. And they've seen like unit shipment success, at least with the Surface Go. And I think they want to lower prices. And you've seen this. I mean, the past, it might even be 2 years, but year and a half or so, Surface devices have been on sale continually. And once you get used to those kind of price points, you think like, this is where they should be at. Like now, I think literally, I think if you go to the Microsoft store, the Surface, most of the Surface PCs are hundreds of dollars off, which makes sense. They're about to be replaced. But, a 15-inch Surface laptop is something I would want. I mean, that's the type of PC I'd like to have. I love Surface laptop.
I've heard also, although I haven't seen this as widely rumored, that there could also be an Intel-based Surface laptop, a new one that comes out too.
Yeah.
So this
which would be more
laptop,
business focused.
Is that one that had Alcantara on the
wrist? I hope
thin.
they make that optional. Come on, guys.
Well, okay. So this is the problem with Microsoft as a PC maker, because obviously they're the biggest company on earth, but as a PC maker, they're one of the small guys.
Right.
And I don't think they have the capacity. Ideally, you would have a choice to have Alcantara not on every single version of that thing. And someone the size of Lenovo or HP would do that, and someone the size of Microsoft just kind of can't.
Yeah.
It just makes it too expensive.
But then there's also the rumor that there'll be a new Intel-based Surface Pro that is basically like the current one with a more powerful processor and USB-C, but no Thunderbolt. And there's a rumor that there's going to be an ARM-based Surface Pro type device also.
ARM-based.
Now that would have
Surface
to be
Pro.
HCX for that to make sense.
Yep.
That's the Qualcomm chip.
Yeah, the new one. The one that's not quite out yet, but
right.
Do you think
So I
we'll
feel
see
like
that
those-
announced in 2
Yeah,
years?
I would bet on that one. I think
too.
that's a solid
I would
bet.
too. Yeah.
that's
so
those
those
an
are like the
intriguing.
consistent rumors.
And no one else is making a laptop with that, right? That's yes.
Lenovo?
There are. Lenovo announced one.
Oh, okay.
And there'll be others. I mean, everyone will.
Yeah.
It is. Everyone.
Well, I'm sure everyone
I would
will,
say,
but I was wondering if there are any available yet. No, because it's
no,
chip's
not yet. No,
out
it's not available yet.
But they have been announced. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And so the thing that might distinguish that would be if that had LTE built in and then the Intel one didn't, maybe. Possibly that's the way they break that down.
It's like Microsoft, the inventor of the always-on PC specification, doesn't make always-on PCs. You can't buy a Surface laptop or a Surface Book with LTE. You can't, even if you wanted it, you can't buy that. I mean, you
can buy a Go though with it, right?
I think a Go, and Surface Pro they had it, but I don't think they have it in the current gen. I could be wrong about that.
So weird.
I know.
This is the frustration with Surface. I mean, I love these machines. I really do. They're so far behind in so many ways. They're so slow. These computers they're updating haven't been updated in 2 years. It's crazy just how slow moving they are.
I know. So then the question is that I get a lot: Surface Book 3 or no? So I have not heard any active rumors about them announcing at this event Surface Book 3, but then just this week I heard from one person they're going to. So I'm like, maybe. I don't know. Because that would be good if they could update that machine, right?
Yeah, and that's I use a Surface Book almost every single day. I love Surface Book. I don't care that it detaches at all. I mean, it's and I bet most people who own them don't either. But it's a portable workstation, really. Dedicated graphics. You can get it in a 15-inch version. You can really spec it out, and it's just a great. If you're a developer, a gamer, even, it's just a great computer.
Yeah.
If they can't fix that whole thing, where it doesn't close all the way, they could just bring the design over intact. It's fine. Just put new, processor gens in there and new GPUs. It'd be fine. It would be fine for me anyway. I think that'd be fine.
Right. Then the outlier crazy things that maybe we'll see, maybe we won't. One of those is that little Surface speaker thing, right? That we think is a Teams related device. Maybe not.
Earbuds.
Surface earbuds. I know. Maybe. You know why I think Surface earbuds as of today is if you look at the Surface account on Twitter, they've been tweeting a lot of audio stuff lately.
Interesting. But that could be about that speaker thing too.
It could. So maybe.
Yeah. I bet one or both of those. I think that's a good bet.
So then, that's all the hardware stuff we think. But now Microsoft's calling this the Microsoft event and not a Surface event. And so if you remember last year, they did that same thing. And that makes me think maybe we could hear about some new things like Teams for Life, maybe, possibly. Like I'm trying to think of things.
365 for human beings.
Consumers. Yeah. Yep. Maybe.
Last year, so what did they do for software? It wasn't much, right? Did they do a short Office demo or something? It was.
Yeah, they tried to show things in scenarios, right? Like they try to show here's how you would use this and how it would fit into your work and transition to your home scenario kind of thing. And I bet they'll do that again.
Right. Yeah, back 2,000 years ago when I joined up with what was then called Windows NT Magazine, our company wanted to start a way to do what Microsoft has been trying to do ever since, which is these guys come into work and they use our technology all day, but then they go home. A lot of them treat their home like it's work, and they set up these environments and they do all this stuff. And we should cover those. We should do something for those people. It's yeah. And by the way, that never worked. That thing failed. It was called Connected Home Magazine. But for Microsoft, I think it's kind of the same thing. They certainly do get some halo effect from the business stuff. But history has proven that people are really comfortable going home and using their iPhone or using an Apple TV or whatever the Google thing is on either one of those. So I don't know. I personally I would like to see some kind of a Microsoft 365 for consumer. But if pressed, I'm not 100% sure I could explain why it makes sense.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unless
it's just one of those things
it might be a rebrand of Office 365 consumer.
Yeah. And that would be fine.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely fine. Yep.
Right. But maybe they'll show gaming stuff, right? If they've got a lot of gaming things happening. Yep. And even if it's not part of the subscription, they could still make gaming a big part of the showcase.
Yes. I got to say, when it comes to gaming services, all of a sudden Microsoft has way too many of them. There are 3 different versions of Game Pass. There is the Games with Gold stuff. There is the Xbox Live Gold itself. There is the coming xCloud thing. They're kind of serviced out. This is long been the vision at Microsoft. We got to get this subscription thing going. They did it with enterprises a long time ago. Now they're working on it for consumers. But, anyone who pays bills every month knows you could kind of micro payment to death by all these subscriptions. And at some point, something has to give. So I don't know. I wish they would just. They're never going to do this. It's like asking for Microsoft to have one version of Windows. Don't have Home, don't have Pro, don't have whatever. Just make Windows. Apple has Mac OS. Just have one. It's called Xbox. I just pay $10 a month. I get everything or whatever. That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. So on that note, they probably will add gaming to it because what the heck.
Even if it's not in the bundle, right? Even if it's not in the bundle, I think it belongs in the event.
Yeah, I do too. Especially with their
AMD's 15-inch AMD laptop. Wouldn't that be something you could show? You could even run games on this thing. Blah.
Yeah, if it had dedicated graphics.
Yeah.
Which it could.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So Surface laptop, maybe Surface Book, not a Surface Studio.
Not hearing anything about a Studio.
Surface Pro 7, maybe AMD version, maybe Intel version, maybe both. right?
I think on
Is there
Pro,
anything far
ARM and Intel, right?
ARM and Intel,
Yep.
not AMD. AMD is on laptop.
of
Okay.
the far-fetched stuff, right? Talking about the future a little bit, talking about the next version of Windows 10, talking about dual screen devices and CentOS and LightOS. Is there any of that you think actually could happen at this event?
So I'm going to do a really wild speculative thing here, and I may be way off base on this. But Microsoft this week published the dates for Build 2020. Usually we have to wait till like the month before the show to see the dates, which is stupid, right? So
Also
we know now
later
Build 2020 is May 19th to 21st next year. Why did they do that?
Yeah, I wondered that myself before
this
event.
I asked, and I got a blanket statement. It's just because we try to make people's lives easier, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you should have made our lives easier 8 years ago, right?
We often say this about you guys.
So what if the last thing Panos does on the stage is he shows a sizzle video for CentOS with light and says, make sure you come to Build in May 2020. Next year.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's possible. I mean, obviously, given the climate, and I don't mean the actual climate, the developer climate, I guess. Most people, or a lot of developers, of course, are targeting mobile platforms. They're targeting the web. It's possible that Microsoft's developer show has lost some of its luster. I mean, obviously, they got a big cloud thing going on there and so forth. But maybe this is an attempt to regenerate some excitement on the client side.
Maybe.
For developers.
That's just a wild guess because I cannot for the life of me think why they're being nice to us now after all the years of not helping us about the dates.
The other thing is,
I'm like,
I mean, technically, 20H1 is 20H1. It's not, 2003 or whatever. I mean, it's possible these things could all align, right? That the next version of Windows 10 will literally come out toward the end of the first half of next year and will be tied to new device types and whatever. I mean, I hope so. God, I hope so.
I know.
I hope it's not just like, you can just make apps however you want. We got UWP, we got WPF.
We don't care.
We don't care.
Yeah. Also, the tagline.
Go nuts. It's fine.
The tagline for next year's Build is somewhat different from the other ones. Here's what it says. Build focuses on the latest trends and future-looking technology innovations for leading architects, developers, startups, and student developers. So they're making it very clear, like, this is about the future. It's not about, like, here's stuff you can do in the next few months. This is like, we're looking out to the future, right?
Right. Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, and they're just being nice.
Is it possible there's another event before Build? No.
Well, it's always possible.
Maybe.
I mean, right? They can do standalone things. There is, look, CES, like I said, would be a place for devices to be announced.
Does Microsoft
Mobile
go
World
to
Congress.
CES these days?
Yeah.
No, they don't have a big booth.
They don't have any booth, but they're there.
The Chinese TV
if you go back to one of the hotels,
I think TCL.
A lot of companies are just in hotels and they have meetings, meeting spaces.
Yeah.
They're there. They're down in the basement of the Venetian. And, HP's down there and Lenovo's down there and Dell's down there. And,
there will be laptops announced there. For sure.
Oh, there absolutely will be. Yeah. And then Mobile World Congress too. I mean, if this is a true non-PC device, right? The dual screen thing.
That's where you announce
it would make sense to go to Barcelona. It would be
it'd be right next to the Fold and the Xiaomi Trifold and the
Yep. And they did the HoloLens 2 there last year.
Oh,
right. That's true.
Okay.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's close enough to ready that they could conceivably do it in the spring, in March.
Yeah, I guess the question is whether we'll hear about it in 2 weeks.
Then.
I like the idea of a teaser.
Me too.
Whether it's the form of an actual prototype or a video.
What do you gain by teasing it, though, if it's not ready?
Because there's not a lot of excitement right now on the client Windows stuff, right?
And look at Google teasing Pixel 4, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's because it all leaked out. I was embracing
people don't talk about this, but Apple often, and I can think of a couple of examples off the top of my head now, will announce, like they announce a new phone, like they just announced the new iPhones, right? And they're like, here's our camera, and it does all this stuff. And it's coming out on September, actually tomorrow, right? It's September 20th or whatever the date is. But it's sometime in the future, we're going to have this other feature. And it's not going to be there right away, but we're going to ship it eventually. They've done that a lot. Remember, they did that with portrait mode with the iPhone 7. I don't remember the exact name of the feature this year. They did it with stereo pairing on the AirPod, the HomePod rather. You kind of, it's like you're not quite ready, but you got to ship something, and you don't want people to forget you're doing this.
Yeah, Apple's done that to their detriment, but they've done it. Google's done it. I think again to their detriment. Just feel like you print out stuff too early. People, I know. It's not. You can kind of take the steam out of it. The PC industry isn't going to tank any further. Okay. Oh yeah, it can't get any worse.
If you think like a November announcement's going to screw up PC sales for Christmas or something, like little Johnny's not going to get that giant laptop he was praying for. Like I don't think we have to worry about that. No. So.
Although, it might stimulate. Would you do it in 2 weeks to kind of get the OEMs off their duff and say, well, all right, here it's going to happen?
You might be doing it because the OEMs want to talk about this thing that they're doing, right?
You know when else they did this? The Surface Hub, when they split it into 2S and 2X. Like when we saw the 2S, the current version, remember they showed us a lot of teasers about the X.
Oh, yeah. Right? Like years ahead of time. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, this platform that's going to run on these new devices could be part of the next version of Windows 10. That's why they're taking so much time to develop it.
Yeah.
We've seen no indication of anything exciting in this release, but they've been testing it for months. And maybe they need to have this moment where they can say, look, this is what we're doing. So they can then start releasing that stuff in builds so people can actually test it on existing hardware.
It's kind of meaningless, but they do have a patent, right?
They have a lot of them. All these Hinge patents you keep seeing, right?
The Microsoft patent of the day.
But the thing is, all these companies patent stuff, it's as much defensive as an intent to
they do.
An announcement they're going to do something. It just means
totally. Yep.
Yeah, but
I know when everyone's like, look at this patent, I'm like, yeah, maybe it'll turn into something, right? Who knows?
Yeah, but Apple does this too. There'll be they'll come up with a device and be like, oh, we saw that patent 3 years ago. It looks exactly like this. Yeah. Sometimes it does come out in final form. So
when you have a building dedicated to lawyers,
yes,
then you tend to do things like that because you got to give them something to do.
Sure.
They could mow the lawn, but they don't like it.
It's probably like a major deliverable for, it's like, it's time for my promotion. What have you patented for the company this year?
Yeah, I even imagine, and I feel like somebody told me this, but maybe it's just my fervid fever dream, but that like anytime there's a meeting to show something new, a lawyer shows up and goes, that's patentable. Oh, yeah, that's patentable. Yeah. Okay, tell me more. Okay, that's patentable, and just make sure it's all patented. Like, why not? Yep. Why wouldn't you?
Sure.
Then you got
especially back in the day when we were suing Linux for everything.
Right.
Right.
I'm sorry, is that a command button?
We own that.
No.
We own that.
No, we invented that.
You didn't mention Ignite. Ignite's coming up in November. Let me do an ad because you're going to like this ad. You're going to like this ad. Have you ever heard of anything called Microsoft Mechanics?
I have. I know these people.
Oh, yeah.
We know those guys.
Of course you do.
Yep.
It's like visual cliff notes for Microsoft This
used
Tech.
to be the Microsoft Garage originally, right? Yeah. And then they used it for the software stuff.
It's Microsoft Mechanics is Microsoft's official show. It's a show now that you can go watch at aka.ms/WWMECHANICS, WW Mechanics. So it's a show about, this is where you see the latest Microsoft tech. Deep engineering info on the latest announcements from Microsoft. For instance, this will be the channel you'll want to go to in a couple of weeks. They touch on trending IT topics. They bring you detailed step-by-step multi-part tutorials. They just did a thing on Windows Virtual Desktop, large-scale Windows and Office deployment. But I want to kind of emphasize, because these are really, these are thoughtfully done. They are not kind of rambling off-the-cuff stuff like this show. They are trying to get as much
accurate. No, I mean totally accurate.
They're trying to get as much into the video as possible. Most of them are under 15 minutes. We haven't done a 15-minute Windows Weekly ever. They get to the point, but it's a good. I'm not saying it's better than us. It's a good companion. It's a good companion. If you want to get the information, like the Cliff Notes from Microsoft Tech, and by the way, it's completely free. So Surface devices, they cover that. Cloud or on-prem infrastructure improvements across Azure and Windows, they cover that. Database architectures, management tools, admin tools, security and compliance controls, productivity innovation. I mean, it covers really the whole spectrum of stuff Microsoft's doing. Their complete line of products and services for business. If you're going to Ignite, they're going to be doing it live in November in Orlando. Mechanics team will be presenting live every day. Engineering and product leaders. Mark Rusinovich would be there. Man, I would go to see that. Aaron Chappell, Brad Anderson will be there. Awesome. Julia White, Rob Lefferts. You'll be able to see the tech in action behind the announcements. Does that ring a bell, that name? Rob Lefferts?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does.
Yep.
So whether you're a tech enthusiast, an IT professional, or an architect looking to stay up to date, this is awesome. Microsoft Mechanics. aka.ms/WW Mechanics. Subscribe. You can subscribe. It's a podcast, so you can just get it automatically. aka.ms/WW Mechanics. Or search for Microsoft Mechanics in your podcast app. Your free go-to source to discover the latest Microsoft tech. Isn't that nice? They bought an ad on this show?
Do we know? Yeah.
Is
this the natural progression of the Office Mechanics?
Yes.
Which used to be the Garage, right? So it's Jeremy Chapman and those guys?
Yep, it is.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, these are good people. I mean, this is
They are.
this is good stuff.
Yep.
So thank you for your support, Microsoft. Should I thank Chris Capicella? I bet he had something to do with this. Maybe he did.
I don't know who
This
controls
is actually
the purse strings.
the craziest time of the year. I mean, we already had the iPhone thing. We're going to have Google's send out invitations for October 15th.
Oh, Leo, you're dropping off all kinds of stuff. The OnePlus is next week.
OnePlus?
Huawei is next. Actually, Huawei's tomorrow, I think.
Well, but see, I don't get too excited about Huawei because I don't think we can buy any of it. Can we?
Yeah.
The laptops
you
are
can.
so nice. I love them, and those phones.
You ever buy like a liver out of a styrofoam container?
Yeah, just like that.
It's a lot like
There's
that.
a guy down on Canal Street, and he's got them in the little containers
He
all
knows a
light
guy.
up. I know a guy.
There's a guy.
I got your mate right here.
He flies to China all the time.
I came down to buy a mate. Not that kind of mate.
Yeah,
But you can get those over on Houston.
you said you wanted a Mate Pro.
A Mate
those
Pro.
are around the corner.
So OnePlus. I love, by the way, I have it somewhere in my pocket. OnePlus 7 Pro is an awesome phone that
Right.
didn't get as much coverage as it maybe should have.
The only thing it's
90 hertz
lacking is
screen.
the top shelf camera. So next week,
Right. So maybe it's time.
praying they get this right, because that phone is perfect otherwise.
I love John Gruber's talking about Apple event. And he said they just should name it the iCamera. They didn't even mention that you can make phone calls with it. They don't even bring it up anymore.
Oh, right. Right.
Phone calls? What,
Oh, yeah, it
what is that? We don't do that. It's a camera.
Phone app's it's not even on the home screen anymore.
Might as well.
You can download it if you need it.
Oh, you need a phone app. Okay, I think we got one. Let me look in the back. Amazon's going to... Actually, we haven't decided if we should cover this, but Amazon supposedly has like 45 new products to announce.
I know.
Yeah,
Goodness.
that's their new thing, right? They announced. Yeah. I like that they go for volume. They're the volume retailer, you know?
I didn't watch it
so
last
that's a
year.
week ahead of Microsoft, right? So you get this thing like the Dog and Pony Show. Then you got Microsoft October 2nd, right?
Crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then, as we mentioned, Ignite. So this is the fall is exciting. I guess a lot of this is because the theory is the so-called holiday buying season. But do people buy electronics in the holiday buying season? No. If I gave my wife a smartphone for Christmas, she'd slug me.
No, some people love that. I mean, some people would want it.
She wants jewelry, I'll be honest with you. She
Right.
doesn't want a smartphone.
No, but if I were buying like from my mom for Christmas, she keeps
that'd be
saying she
nice.
wants a new PC, right? I'm like, okay.
All right.
I'm not going to get her a Surface.
I
But,
stand corrected. What would you get your mom?
I don't know. I keep going back and forth, Chromebook or no Chromebook.
How old is she?
85.
Chromebook.
I know.
Yeah, I think
Chromebook.
that would
Or iPad. My
serve her
mom
well.
uses her
No,
iPad
we can't
Pro.
have iDevices in the house.
Oh.
That's just
Yikes. That's where you draw. That's where Mary Jo Gates draws the line.
exactly.
No relative of mine will use an iDevice. Well, yeah. Then I think a Chromebook is actually perfect.
I know.
My mom loves her iPad. She really uses her iPad Pro a lot. In fact, she uses, the other day I called her, she said, I'm on the iPad Air. I said, Mom, I gave you an iPad Pro. She said, oh, I know, that's in the other room. I have them everywhere.
Wow.
My mother also uses an iPad, which is ironic because sometime in the past 5 or 6 years, she feigned interest in my job, and she asked me how it was going, how Microsoft was doing, and I was like,
"Are you
good."
still covering that Windows thing, Paulie?
No, she goes, this is what she says. She goes, is that other company still around?
Oh,
I'm like,
God.
other company? She goes, yeah, it's like Microsoft, and then there was this other company. I'm like, Apple? She goes, yeah, Apple. I said, yeah, they're still around.
That other company's still around.
The other fruit.
Whatever happened to Apple? Whatever happened to them?
It did happen to them.
They're okay. Little kiosk stores in the mall now. It's cute.
I am waiting to hear. We hired a new business person, and they needed a laptop, and I thought, okay, I'll give them my ThinkPad X1 Extreme, which is really overkill.
Sure.
Really overkill. But the excuse was, well, it's 8 months old, and maybe there'll be a new MacBook in a month, and if there is, then I'll get that, and if not,
An actual keyboard.
with a real keyboard, and if not, maybe I'll get that. I like that Dell XPS 15 is looking pretty sweet.
Wow. How about a Surface Laptop 15?
It's not even on my radar. I bought the laptop when it first came out with the Alcantara. Remember I got the kind of mauve one?
Yep.
Did you ever rub any Cheetos into that thing? Have you seen what that looks like?
Yeah, I was very tempted, but I thought
it's not good.
I gave it to Lisa. It sat literally on the kitchen counter for about 5 months.
Wow.
And I said, do you want that? She said, I need a Windows last, so I gave it to her. Never used it.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is
big.
now.
Why? Did she just not like the form factor?
No, it's beautiful. I thought. Don't you think it's
Are
beautiful?
you talking about the Extreme?
The laptop.
The Surface laptop.
Oh, the Surface laptop. Oh, I'm sorry.
I got the purple one with Alcantara.
Yeah.
It looks like a pimp's automobile.
Yeah.
All I need is little dingle balls, and I'm set. Some fuzzy dice.
The Surface dingle balls.
Surface dingle balls.
Yeah, you attach them with a Surface.
I don't know. I'm not.
I
am not tempted by it. I know a lot of people are, but I'm not tempted by the Surface Pro for some reason.
Yeah,
you mean the laptop?
Or the laptop. The laptop seems generic.
Laptop I like.
It's generic.
I agree, but
Nothing
but this form factor has been perfected.
What are the connectors?
Oh, connector. So it has.
What is the connector?
Port. Yeah, it is. It's USB.
Yeah,
it has
one
USB
Type C USB port.
No, Leo. Sorry,
no.
It's not modern. It's a USB 3A or whatever.
I rest my freaking case.
Yep.
Okay.
Sometimes love is about other things than logic.
I know. I'm not a fan of the laptop. I am not.
I bought the Surface Book, and it was such a nightmare. I didn't want to go back there.
I keep hoping one day they'll perfect the laptop enough that I'll be like, okay, here we go. Here it is.
Yeah, because it's pretty. It's thin, but it needs Thunderbolt, and it needs.
Not that
they should
thin.
They should keep it exactly the same and add one USB Thunderbolt 3 port. It'd be perfect.
Then it would. Well, perfect's a big word.
And let Alcantara be an option and not force it on.
Yeah,
yes.
I love
it.
It's
13.5 inch 3x2 display.
Yes.
Perfect keyboard. Perfect track.
I do like 3x2. I really do.
I did too.
I traded the Surface.
You're right.
No,
Very Joe.
I like that. You want a wide display? Surprises me.
I like 16. I don't
That surprises
like
me. I traded in the Surface Studio 3.32 for the Lenovo all-in-one, which I really am liking, and it's 16.9. Yeah. The only reason that's good is because our shows are in 16.9.
Mm.
Yeah.
So,
okay, Paul. Though, what about that new HP that got announced today?
Oh, isn't that pretty? I was looking at that.
Yeah, I'm not that's not my thing, right? So that's a super light, super thin, 13-inch. I really prefer north of 13-inch on the screen.
It's an executive
and I'd
laptop.
rather have. I don't mind carrying a little bit of weight.
It's less than a kilo. It's.
I know. I like the light idea. Everybody says all-day battery, which is always a lie, but yeah.
LG makes a line of computers that are very similar called the Gram.
Gram is
and
really
there's a 13,
nice.
14, and 15. Those are beautiful computers. So
Yeah.
I get it. There's a market for it. It's just not for me personally. I need something.
It said,
more
I
sophisticated.
was reading it and I was going to ask you, what's the Intel vPro chip? Is that good or bad? I don't know what that means.
No, vPro is just something you can get on the core chips. It
That's the
means
management.
it's a business class.
That's the management thing.
It's a business class. Yeah.
So the article I read really should have said, is it a 8th generation
I think
Core
what they're assuming
5?
is that it means it's probably 9th or 10th or whatever the newest one is now with Core 5 or i5 or 7. I think it's what that means. I believe, although it is an ultra light, maybe an ultra thin.
See, I thought it might be a U or even a Y.
I could look
because
this
it's
up.
so.
It could actually. You're right. It could. So let's.
I thought that's why they said vPro instead of the actual specification. Like I don't honestly. If I could not buy vPro, because vPro implies the Intel management engine, which has all sorts of issues, I'd just assume not go there. I don't need that. I don't have an IT guy looking at my hard drive.
Let's
booting it up
data sheet.
When I'm not
Let's look
there.
it up.
But it's pretty, and I love it's how thin and light. Yeah,
I know. It looks really nice. I like HP hardware. I can't say enough good things about.
I came so close to buying the Folio last year, the leather. The leather.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank God.
It's kind of heavy.
Yeah, I know. Thank God I didn't.
The answer is it is Core. It's Core i3, i5, or i7.
Okay, good.
And it's 8th gen.
Oh, that's fine.
Variety.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not.
It's a real chip.
It's not i9, but that's fine.
Yeah, and the thing you're talking about, the HP Folio, that had a Y series processor.
Right. That was a lower end.
And it was okay. It was okay.
And the leather added 8 pounds.
Yeah.
I know.
Well,
the leather was
kind of
cool.
I thought the leather was kind of cool.
I thought it was really cool. I just thought this is really neat.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it again, huh? They're not going to update that.
Well, that event was not quite a year ago, so
they could.
I suppose they could be having
I want a pigskin laptop.
Right.
How about vegan
I want
leather?
it to be like
Come on.
a cow that has where they spray paint it so you know who it belongs to.
Hey, didn't Microsoft make NFL branded Surfaces?
Mm-hmm.
Is that was
Surface type covers?
That's right.
Yep.
But did they still have the NFL deal this year? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, they do.
Of course they do.
They do.
Why wouldn't they?
Because Apple won't pay that much money.
So the NFL's forced to use iPads from Microsoft.
I don't think that's how Microsoft markets it.
No, and it wouldn't be the same. Belichick throwing the iPad into the trash. It just
Windows
wouldn't have the same impact. It wouldn't.
It's just like every other Windows device. You're just forced to use it by somebody.
Exactly.
Sorry.
All right. Let's as Microsoft would say, go to the cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the cloud.
To the cloud.
To the cloud. Yes. Okay. So I don't know if you remember this, either of you. Calendar.help. Do you remember this announcement?
I'm in it. I use it.
He's in it.
You use it.
He's soaking in it.
How did you get in? I never could get into the private build.
Offered it to me.
Okay. Well, so Calendar.help is a bot which you can use in Outlook and I think also in Gmail to help you schedule meetings with people. So instead of going back and forth and saying, "Oh, when can you meet? Oh, when can you meet? Oh, I can't meet then." Blah blah blah. You just put Cortana on the CC and you say in the message, "Cortana, could you arrange a time for me and Paul
You put
to Skype?"
Cortana on the CC.
CC the
You do,
Cortana.
CC Cortana.
The person. Yeah.
Tell your mom to do that. Hey,
Yep.
CC the Cortana. See what
And-
happens.
Put Cortana on the down low.
It's kind of amazing, isn't it? Doesn't it work?
Yeah.
Have you tried this with people?
So what
It works.
happens?
So she looks at your calendar and the other person's calendar and says, "What about Wednesday at 3?"
Wow.
And then you go back and forth and you come up with a time. I hadn't actually seen this in action until somebody this week did this with me when we were trying to schedule a time, and I'm
fun.
like, "Wow, this works."
I feel like it's been around for like 2 years.
Other companies have
3
done
years.
these
3
things.
years.
I mean, this is a plug-in
Yeah.
for a lot
Right.
of
Well,
So
companies.
this has
see, to me,
been around.
how is this a standalone thing though? Like,
This has been around for 3 years as a test, right? It's a bot. But I started thinking, when is this ever going to come to market? So I looked at the Ignite session list and I'm like, oh, there it is. And now it's been renamed to Scheduler, which is a much better name.
that's how you found this. They didn't announce this.
No.
Oh, that's funny.
Right. So if you go to scheduler.microsoft.com, you will see this thing and it resolves to calendar.help. And then I asked them, hey, are you about to announce this is finally generally available? And they're like, how did you find that scheduler address? And I'm like, yeah, it's on your Ignite schedule. Okay.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's finally looks like it's about to go GA, or it's getting very close to finally going GA. And I actually think this is a productivity tool that people will use.
A lot of people are like, feature of Calendar. It's almost like I remember what version it was, but
right?
The desktop version of Outlook, you could overlay people's schedules so you could find the time for a meeting, but you would have to do it yourself. Like it would show you where the busy times were, et cetera. You're not like violating anyone's privacy here, right? I mean, this is within a workplace. The person that you're communicating with can determine what it is they show you. It might not say, I have an embarrassing doctor appointment at 10. It might just say out of office at 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
But the idea is you could, you find those empty spaces in the schedule that match everyone who's involved.
Right.
It makes sense. It's good use of AI.
Nice. It is. So it's AI powered. Right? Like everything at Microsoft these days. But actually, the reason you can say this is AI powered is it uses the Microsoft Bot framework and their Lewis tools underneath to actually kind of match schedules and do things like that. So I think it's a cool application of technology because a lot of these things like their desktop analytics or Windows analytics, I forget which is the new name, or Microsoft analytics, where it looks at when were you active and how many meetings did you have in the week? I don't actually find that very useful for me, but this I find very useful. I think this is cool. So I think we'll hear more about it at Ignite for sure.
I guess the reason it's a standalone thing is because it can work with other calendars, right? So in other words, it does work with Gmail, you're right. And they couldn't do that without it being a service.
And has Cortana ever said, oh, Paul, I see you have an opening tomorrow. How about some Levi's? Let's go down to the store or anything like that?
Actually, what I'd like is to get that Taybot back so they can insult the people I'm going to have meetings with.
Yikes.
I don't know what it is, Paul. No one wants to meet with you.
Now, did you talk last week about the new to-do? Because I know, Paul, you're big Wunderlist to-do guy. Did you talk about that last week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just quickly, the weird thing there is that a couple of days before this announcement, the guy who previously started Wunderlist asked Microsoft to sell it back to him because he didn't feel like they had come through on delivering all of the Wunderlist features on Microsoft To Do. And then 2 days later, Microsoft announced a major new version of the app that looks exactly like Wunderlist, which was kind of interesting. So weird little controversy there. But my big takeaway was that we're talking about a to-do list here, not something that cures cancer. So I'm not really sure what the excitement's all about here. But Microsoft To Do looks great. Whether or not it does every single thing that Wunderlist ever did, I can't say. And I don't really care personally, but
but you are using Calendar.help.
Yep. And I use a calendar generally for to-do stuff as well, as we've discussed in the past. And Mary Jo does too.
Actually, that's a good idea. Will Cortana see that you have something to do and not schedule you for that time? I mean, or
that's supposed to happen. Yep.
That's good.
Definitely, because it's just an event.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Because Vladimir in the chat room is saying, if I have to write a report for 2 hours, I don't put that in my Outlook. But if you did it as a to-do, you would.
Mm-hmm. And that should and would sync with whatever backend you're using for Microsoft, right? If it's Outlook.com or Outlook on the web or whatever. So that should work fine.
Yep. Cool. Mm-hmm. Exchange 2010.
Now we're going back to the past.
This is a long overdue.
Well, okay. So Exchange 2010 was supposed to no longer get any security updates as of January 14th, 2020, which is the same date that Windows 7 no longer gets any more security updates.
This is the 10-year times, right? Life cycle, life cycle.
Right. But Microsoft this week said, we've looked and seen a number of our customers are not ready to drop on that date. So we are pushing it back to October 13th, 2020, which immediately set off all these bells in my head like, oh man, they're going to push back Windows 7. And so I pinged them and said, I know. I'm like, so what about Windows 7? And there was just no answer. And I'm like, guys, are you pushing back Windows 7? Anybody? Is anyone answering?
Windows 7
and finally
has
they
got
said,
to be a bigger problem
than
this.
No, Here's the statement. The date of extended support for Windows 7 remains January 14th, 2020.
Well, okay, so they do have the support plan in place for that, at least for businesses.
Right. But Exchange, that was interesting, right? Because that was something they've been telegraphing for a long time, that was the end of support. But no. So if you're somebody still on Exchange Server 2010, the thing you should know is you cannot go from 2010 to Exchange 2016 in one hop. I mean, sorry, to 2019. You cannot. You can't go 2010 to 2019.
I love this company.
First, you have to go to 2013 or 2016. You cannot make that giant leap.
That is amazing. Is this related to 64-bit something? I don't know if anyone would know.
I know what you're thinking
maybe
about.
2013 was the first one that was 64-bit, and then
that's a good question. I don't know the answer.
64-bit only or something.
But of course, I will point out their preferred and suggested path as you go from Exchange 2010 to Office 365, not stay on-prem, right?
In other words, let us host it.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's exactly. I mean, anyone. Yeah, most companies should be doing something like that, I think.
If you can, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
there are lots of reasons you'd be running your own Exchange server, and it could well be
there's one of them that you're insane.
Yeah, you're a masochist. But there could be
HIPAA,
right, and there could be some big client or two. What if IBM said, "Yeah, we're not going to be able to change"? I guess they would have that support. You could do this. Yeah,
you can buy. Yeah. You can buy extended support for a product like that, but it is very, very expensive. It's more than buying the extended security updates for Windows by a lot.
Interesting.
Yep. So, yeah. I just, as soon as I saw, though, that they pushed that back and it was the same date as Windows 7, I'm like, oh, man, are they just setting up to, kind of eke it out there?
I didn't have this one on my radar. I knew that Office 2010 was the same year, at least, right? And I think date for support expiration, right? And then I didn't Exchange 2010. I'm not 100% sure I knew that was the date.
Yeah, I know. There's so many things expiring in the next couple of years. So Office 2010 and SharePoint 2010 expire on October 13th, 2020, which is the same new date as Exchange Server 2010. So now they're all together.
Okay.
As a family, a happy family.
One big happy family.
One foot in the grave.
Actually, I wonder, I'm just looking to see if IT Pro TV has Exchange. I bet they do have courses in Microsoft
Exchange migration.
Yeah, and I bet you in migration as well. Yeah. IT Pro TV, of course, our sponsor. We love these guys. They've been with us since practically the beginning of IT Pro TV. In fact, they were really, in a way, when I talked to Tim and Don, I first met them at a NAB show many years ago. And at the time, they were IT trainers. And they kind of had this epiphany that what if we did our IT training kind of like Twit does its shows? You could watch it round the clock. You could watch it on your computer, but also on your TV, on your Roku, on your Apple TV. And we got, engaging presenters who are real experts in IT. And IT Pro TV was born and really has been a massive success. They now have more than 4,000 hours of on-demand IT training in every area. They're so good, they've become the official video training partner for CompTIA. Now, so I should explain, if you're not yet in IT, it's hard to get that first job because you don't have any experience. You can say, well, I'm really good at this. You need a certificate, honestly, maybe one or two. And that's what all of these technical schools, that's kind of what they do. They teach you what you need to get past the test, like the A+ test or the Security Plus test, so that you can get a job. But what's great about IT Pro TV, it goes well beyond that. So you get the training, you get the job, get the cert, get the job. But now you want to continue to keep your skills up. IT Pro TV has training for everything. But if you want to get into IT, I think these CompTIA certs are absolutely the best. A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, and they've got they have a dozen CompTIA on-demand courses, so they've got all the training you need. They have two kinds of memberships. The basic membership gives you all the videos, but if you want to get the premium membership, you get the videos, but you also get the practice exams, which is I highly recommend. You want to take those exams before you take the tests. You also get labs, virtual labs. So, for instance, if you're migrating your Exchange server all the way up to 2019, You can do it in the lab. And if and when you screw up, you close the tab because it's in an HTML5 browser. You just close the tab and you go when you walk away. I love these labs. It's a great way to learn in a kind of a test tube, a sandboxed environment. IT Pro TV. Whether you're new to the IT field or a seasoned pro, IT Pro TV's online IT training courses will change your life. And I know that because I've talked to so many IT pros who've come here to our studio when I was out there in Gainesville visiting their studio, who have really, I always wanted to do this, and now I am. And I thank you, IT Pro TV. We have a great deal for you. We still have our great deal, 30% off, and that's not just for the first month or year, but for the life of your active subscription. Forever, 30% off. Visit the website. It's go.itpro.tv/windows. Go.itpro.tv/windows. The code dub30. That's for 30% off. Forever. Go.itpro.tv/windows. WW30. I'm telling you, you're gonna love IT Pro TV. By the way, they have such a great facility. They do offer to help you create your own custom training if your organization has to do training of any kind. From planning to post, you could choose the services you want, execute on your video strategy easily, bring your own host, use one of their great engaging hosts at IT Pro TV. They have multiple high-def studios that includes HD robotic cameras, DMX dimmable LED lighting. They have an overhead talkback monitor, direct live streaming, and a whole lot more. If you want to make your own training, you can do that as well. Visit go.itpro.tv/windows. And don't forget, sign up today with the offer code WW30. IT Pro TV, build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. On we go. Our journey continues with some dev talk.
I noticed Mary Jo has inserted a little joke into my dev talk section. I will respond to that.
Is it a geek joke?
I put some angle brackets in there just to make everyone laugh.
Sure. She had a return void. It's hilarious. So, two dev topics here. Sorry. .NET Core 3.0 is going to be released at a virtual conference next week. They released a release candidate of it, I think yesterday or maybe the day before. This is interesting because of what comes next, which is not, as Mary Jo said, .NET Core 4.0, but rather .NET 5.0. Because they're consolidating the proprietary .NET right into, they're making it .NET Core. So .NET Core has matured to the point where it can become .NET. Kind of like Windows NT matured to the point where it could become Windows. Or whatever. Okay, she's take a beer.
Yeah, so the event is the event's called .NET Conf 2019, right? If you want to watch it, it's a virtual event.
Yeah, and there's new versions of our new Visual Studio coming. I think Visual Studio Code as well, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And actually, that explains the release candidate because they had a Revit to match what's going to be a ship in Visual Studio. Or maybe it was Visual Studio and Visual Studio for Mac. It doesn't matter. And speaking of cross-platform stuff, Flutter 1.9 was released this past week as well. This natively supports macOS Catalina, the new version of macOS that's coming out next month, as well as iOS 13. But actually, the bigger deal here, if you're not familiar with Flutter, is a cross-platform UI framework that started out on mobile. So you could create, this is the write once, run everywhere thing.
It's from Google.
You could make your app once. Yeah, it's from Google. Uses the Dart programming language, which is similar to C# or whatever. You write the app once, literally. It generates EXEs for both systems or whatever the package format is, and then it takes on the look of the UI. And you can obviously test it before you ship it that way. But the idea is you just create one app, right? And pretty cool. But they actually have really big plans for this thing. So they're extending it to support the desktop as well, so you'll be able to create native desktop applications, and also the web, so you'll be able to create web applications with it. So Google's obviously kind of all over the map when it comes to this stuff because they have all kinds of different ways to write different kinds of apps for different kind of platform. They support different languages in Android Studio for Android app development. They have PWA stuff, obviously, for the web and for Chrome OS. And now they have this Flutter thing. And actually, Flutter's really interesting. This is, like I said earlier at the top when Mary Jo mentioned the write once, run anywhere thing. I mean, this is a really interesting attempt at that. And it seems like it's been pretty successful on mobile. And we'll see if they can transform that to the web and to the desktop as well.
We had somebody
and Tim,
from the Flutter team.
I was going to say, Tim Sneath works there, right? Who used to work at Microsoft.
Oh, is that true? Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, on Flutter, I think. Yep.
Okay, cool. No, that's funny. It's interesting. I'm not going to be able to come up with all these names, but in the past week, maybe 10 days, a number of people, I've seen like people on it will be like a Google blog post, like Eric Lippman. Was that the right name?
Yep.
We talked about, was that the right guy?
Wait,
I saw his name and I'm
did he go to Google?
I think it was Google. And I'm like, this guy used to work at Microsoft. Like I see this all the time now, like former Microsoft guys, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, Tim Sneath, Group Product Manager for Flutter and Dart.
Good stuff.
There he is.
Well, Flutter's great.
Have you used it at all?
Yeah, I've played. I mean, in my capacity as a clown, I can only just kind of play around with it. But I mean, it looks great. You know?
I actually, I'm kind of toying with doing something with it because I love the idea of.
Yeah.
How well does it do cross-platform though? I mean, does it look native?
Yeah, it's getting better all the time. So they have different themed controls and so forth. And so when it first came out, it was all material stuff, which of course, if you look at Google's apps on iOS, they often kind of look like material design type apps, and it's fine. I don't think it's actually that bad, but obviously a lot of iPhone people don't like that kind of stuff. So they now have what they call I think it's called Cupertino, which is their theming of all the controls so that it works and looks native on iOS. I guess the analog to this is actually Xamarin, right? Like Xamarin, what's the Xamarin? The Xamarin has a mobile thing that does this. And actually, Flutter's big claim to fame was something that was just adopted on Xamarin as well, which is the ability to change code in place while it's running.
Yes.
And have it
so
just,
cool.
What do you call it? There's a phrase for this. Dynamic refresh or whatever it's called, where it just, you don't have to recompile it, rerun it, stop, recompile, rerun. It just works on the fly. And it really, I mean, when you're designing an app in real time, it's kind of amazing. Like that works. I have played with that for sure.
I'll never forget when we first started doing that in Lisp in 1962. It was so exciting.
Look, there's no good idea that's not going to be reinvented.
No, it's a giant circle of developer life.
No, but it makes a big difference in development cycles. It does. It's a really
it's huge. Yeah. It's huge.
So, Paul, I've been watching the NFL. As you may know, the football is back.
Oh, I know. 2-0, by the way. Go on.
Yes. Yeah. I thought you might have noticed that. Yeah. Congratulations on Antonio Brown. I think you're going to enjoy him. Mm-hmm. Always good for a laugh.
I only wish he had scored 3 touchdowns. Oh, well, you know what, though? The Patriots are like this prison gang movie where they take in all the malcontents from everywhere else and somehow they just kind of work.
I think it's Belichick feels like, hey, I can handle anybody.
Yeah, probably can. There is no bigger punk than him.
Yeah. But the reason I brought it up is, I'm getting up making a sandwich, as one does during a football game, and I hear the Fleetwood Mac cover, Never Break the Chain, and I look up, and my God, it looks like the most amazing game ever. It's Gears of War.
Yeah. You know what? I got to say, I feel like this is like a Hollywood blockbuster. Every once in a while, this movie will come out, or this game in this case, and you can kind of tell like it's just going to achieve some level of success because they are marketing the hell out of it. They had Gears 5 ads on stadiums around the country. It's been advertised. So supposedly it's worked. So according to Microsoft, this game is sold just in the opening weekend, which, by the way, was a limited release only to people who had pre-bought it or had Xbox Game Pass. Xbox.
Yeah, that was the thing they were also advertising. Available with Xbox Game Pass. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So actually, honestly, Gears 5 is not that great of a game.
Oh, really?
But it's really well made. Like, don't get me wrong.
You say that as a Call of Duty partisan, but
yeah, as someone who actually knows a quality game when he sees one, I would just say, this one's it's okay. If you like running around with like a loaded diaper, it's great. But it's what it is. It doesn't matter. But
that is total trash talk. You are amazing. You snuck that right in.
Look, if you want to stand upright, there are other games. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So,
doesn't have
or
a
jump
dog.
over something, or you're kind of hunkered down on the ground. It's a weird thing, but it's a beautiful game. It's really well made, and I had this as a tip. I think last week or the week before, but If you sign up for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate right now, you can get 2 months for $2. Just play this. Just play it then. Just play it for $2. You don't have to buy it. $2.
It's a good deal.
Anyway, it worked because apparently it's been played twice as much as the previous game, which is very, very similar, by the way, as far as quality and all that. On PC, it's 3 times as much as the previous game, which is really interesting because I don't think the previous game was on PC. But maybe it was. Maybe it was an Xbox Play Anywhere title. I don't remember. But anyway, yeah, this one's going well. And, I will say this for Microsoft. Whatever I think of this game, it doesn't really matter. But Microsoft Game Studio games tend to be really, really well supported. Remember that game Sea of Thieves? It probably came out a year ago, something like that.
Yeah, it sailed around forever.
Yeah, they're still pumping out like free DLC for that
nice.
game. And actually,
that's good.
Gears 4, they supported that thing with new content for easily 9 months, if not a year. So they'll do right by this game too. Like if you're into this long term, you're in good shape because they really do a good job with that kind of stuff. But let's move on to something a little better, shall we?
Yes.
And by a little better, I mean a lot better. Call of Duty Modern Warfare is obviously the next game in that series. It's coming out at the end of October. If you pre-order it now, you can partake in a multiplayer beta test. It starts tomorrow, runs through Sunday. It's PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. And yes, it does support crossplay for the first time. So you'll be able to get mowed down by the PC guy with the mouse now with your silly little hand controller that moves at 1/10 the speed. We'll see how that goes. So that starts tomorrow. So you can, if you pre-order any version of that game, you can get access to the beta. And I think there are going to be other weekends where they have beta tests as well for multiplayer.
Fun.
Speaking of which, Call of Duty Mobile, which started as kind of it was like a game that was only available in China for a while. They've kind of recast it, so it's a lot more like the traditional series. It's coming out on mobile on October 1st. And I believe it's Android and iOS, but it's at least Android. And honestly, for like, if you're into like classic Call of Duty, I haven't played it, but as far as like what it looks like all the old games, like the Modern Warfare games, the Black Ops games. It looks pretty cool. So I'll be looking at that too. That might be interesting. Grab a hand controller and a tiny screen.
Will the gameplay be the same? I mean,
I think it will. I think
sometimes
it's
they take just like the Nazi zombies or something, just kind of a little party.
No, this is like a full multiplayer deal.
Wow.
Like, yeah. So this could be interesting.
I have to be honest. Ever since I got Apple Arcade, I really haven't played any other games.
Leo, you have never hurt me more than what you just said.
I actually sold my Xbox.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no, I get everything I need for $5 a month. That's all I need.
The price is good. The Apple Arcade stuff is very much like traditional mobile games, right?
Yeah.
The kind of cutesy graphics and little fun characters hopping around, not hurting each other, that kind of thing.
It's great.
And there's a huge audience for that.
Yep.
There is a huge audience. I was just looking today because Google announced a new version of their Stadia Bundle for people that missed out on the Founders Edition.
Oh, shoot. I missed out on that.
No, you didn't. If you live in the United States, you can still get it.
Yeah. I'm still not getting it.
I know. Well, I know. So, but the thing is, if you look at the games that those guys are going to have, it's much more aligned to what is, I would call like a traditional console type experience.
Yes.
Like on an Xbox, those shooters like Doom.
Well, you
and all
even
that stuff.
buy the game. I mean, it's like the game is stored on their servers, but you own it.
Right. So we're going to be swimming in these services pretty soon. I think the Apple stuff is priced right, and I think there's an audience there, and I think they're going to do great. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of overlap between that crowd and like people who would play Call of Duty or play the heavy console games.
No. It's real people.
It's real people.
Yeah, it's real people. Not people who live in their mom's basement.
Sure.
A billion pockets, y'all. A billion pockets.
Whose parents are paying for their iPhone. Yes, it's probably. I'm sure.
Well, actually, it's a really good deal because it's $5 a month, and it's a family plan. So everybody in the family is playing games.
Right. No, it's a great deal. It really is, and it's
a different kind of game. You have to be a casual gamer, I think. But
Yeah, but I think most people are. You're standing in line and you're playing Bejeweled or something. I mean, I think that's most people, like you said. Yeah. Or did you say normal people?
Well,
whatever you say.
Normal, most. It's not the same idea.
I agree.
The unwashed masses.
Yes.
Actually, that's
it's fine.
the gamers
I think
are
it's gonna do
unwashed.
good.
It's the washed masses.
That's true. They're right, very clean.
They have more time to bathe.
So it is the second half of the month, and Microsoft always announces Xbox Game Pass games for the second half of the month, right? They do the first half and then the second half. The complexity now is that we have 3 different versions of this service, and so we have games that are for console, we have games that are for PC, and then we have games that are for both, right? That's the ultimate one. Up until the beginning of this month, they would announce these things all together, and it was kind of confusing because they'd have like this big list of games, and they were like, well, this one's available in certain places. So now they've split it up. We only know what's coming on Xbox Game Pass for console in the second half of the second half of the month. I recognize a few of these games. None of these are particularly interesting to me, but it's Lego Worlds, Dirt Rally 2, Bad North are coming on September 26th, and then actually ahead of that, starting tomorrow, Jump Force and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. And I don't know what either of those is, but there you go. So presumably today, sometime they'll talk about what's coming on PC as well, but they didn't do that yet.
Nice. All right, I think Mary Jo has suffered long enough.
I have. Ooh.
I disagree.
First we had to talk NFL, then games. Ooh.
I know. I really tried to spin it in a way that would just be completely annoying to you.
You did a great job, though.
Yeah.
Did I already do this? I did.
Did you do it? You did everything, I think. I'm looking. Game Pass, right?
Yep.
Warfare, Gears. All right, app picks coming up. Tip of the week, rumor of the week, code name of the week, beer of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Sean says.
It's a downward spiral.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a good one.
Yeah.
We like to crash land this podcast whenever possible.
I think any beer with the name.
We had whiskey of the week last week.
Did we?
Does
what was the
anybody
whiskey
here know
of
how
the
to fly
week?
a podcast?
Not me.
Calendar 12, was it?
Oh. Yeah. That was Ann, right? Yeah,
Ant
it is
solid.
Yep.
That's a solid choice.
Ann has got me into whiskey a little bit, even more than Carl Franklin did. It's been fun doing the space side with Ann. We've been having some fun. Our show today brought to you by we'll get to the back of the book in just a second. Let me tell you about Capterra. If you're in business, I love stories like we're going to keep Exchange 2010 alive for another 9 months, that kind of story. That's business in a nutshell. People are still using Windows XP and Internet Explorer 8 because the boss's nephew, Joey, in 1994, wrote some program. It requires ActiveX Desktop, and the whole business runs on it. It's insecure. It's dangerous. No one likes it. But Joey's long gone, and this is what you're doing, right? Okay, I got a better way. There is such good enterprise software, even like line of business software, for every possible category. Everything from, CRM, email marketing, to yoga studio management or mortuary management. I mean, there's software for your business, modern, good software. But the problem is, where do you find it? You Google it? No. You ask a friend? No. Hey, buddy, you know what the best mortuary software is? No, I do not. You go to Capterra, Capterra.com, the leading free online resource to help you find the best software for your business. Capterra is so fast, so easy. You're just going to say, what was I thinking? And by the way, the best part about, so the way it works, you go, there's 700 categories, you pick the category, you pick the actual software thing you're looking for. They have filters, and they're, when you're looking for a specific thing, a dog groomer management, they will have filters that match that category, like, yes, we'll make appointments, and it's on premises, that kind of thing. It'll then show you, it'll narrow it down, and it'll show you exactly the programs that match your needs. You can actually make a comparison, side-by-side comparison chart if you want. And then here's the best part. There are reviews, more than 1 million reviews on Capterra. These are verified by actual users, 1,000 new reviews every single day. And I really think the reason is Capterra is free, and people go, wow, I'm getting this for free. I kind of pay it forward, so I'm going to leave a review. In fact, I would recommend if you find some software you like, leave or don't like, leave a review. It's validated, so you can trust it, and then of course you'll know, does this software do what it says it'll do? Is it right for me? I think Capterra is fantastic. I think you will too. And I don't want to bury the lead here, which is it's absolutely free. Not freemium, not you'll pay them later, not nothing. You couldn't give them money if you tried. You just go to capterra.com/windows. CAPTERRA.com/windows. They even have for free a download the big book of free software. I mean, it's an amazing resource. Capterra.com/windows. Try it. It's absolutely free. It's the tool you need to make an informed choice for your business. Capterra, software selection simplified, and do let them know that you heard it here, so that we get the credit by just going to that special address, Capterra.com/windows, and you got it all. It's amazing. Paul Thurrott, we're gonna bring Paul back. It's your fault for his. You got 3 app picks this week. 3.
Yeah, I'm overcompensating for my lack of tips.
You don't need to do tips when you got picks. It's a pick, not a tip.
That's right. Yep. In this case, it is. So, 3 picks. Sorry. So, Amazon announced this week a new HD version of Amazon Music, which makes it suddenly a little bit interesting, especially because you can try it free for 90 days.
I signed up immediately.
Yeah, I did too.
I was already. Whatever the tier below that, unlimited, Prime Unlimited. It's cheap if you're a Prime, relatively cheap if you're a Prime member.
Relatively cheap, yeah. They have a lot of music services too. So if you're a Prime member, you get basically a radio service for free.
Right.
They have Amazon Music.
That's
Unlimited,
got 1 million songs. Unlimited has 50 million.
50 million, yeah. And then this is the upgrade from that. So they have some tens of millions that are in HD, which is like CD quality. And then they have some millions that are apparently in
UHD, which is silly.
UHD,
because it's video. It's not video; it's audio. But they decided that was easier to understand for people. No, but it's 24-bit. I think it's 24-bit.
Yeah, 24-bit.
Yeah.
This is probably as good as it's ever going to be. You probably won't hear it depending on what speaker you're using.
Right.
I think you need high-end, like a digital
you need a DAC.
Audio converter kind of thing.
You need a good DAC.
Yeah, like a Sonos is not going to do it.
No,
but
nor is your iPhone. iPhone's a 4416, I think, like a CD.
Yeah, but I'm curious because, it's like streaming a 4K video on a 1080p set. Sometimes just even downsampling it, you might see an improvement over typical streaming. So I haven't tested it yet, but I guess this could technically be a tip because what the heck? It's free for 90 days. I mean, might as well give it a shot,
They
so
have
it's $14.99 a month
that are CD quality, and then you can push a button, and then if it's Fleetwood
they'll
Mac
automatically
rumors,
give you the highest quality one they have.
The Ultra HD. I think this is
I'm
great.
really
It's going to kill Tidal. I mean, this is basically was Tidal's claim to fame, right?
Yep, and it's less expensive than Tidal.
Yeah.
And I would expect Spotify and Apple will. I'm surprised they haven't done something like this
yet. I think Apple might not. I have a feeling Apple won't.
Oh, just because they can't really do it. Well, I mean,
they're really all in on this AAC stuff. That's their thing.
Yeah.
I could see Spotify
it's literally FLAC. This is the FLAC file you're getting.
Isn't that amazing? It's FLAC.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It just shows, I think, that people have a lot more bandwidth, and maybe they care more about music. That would be very good news. By the way, I loved it. They have Neil Young.
Yeah. Neil Young is the ultimate curmudgeon when it comes to this. He's been on literally like a 10-year crusade.
Oh, yeah. I have a Pono player
he hated
back here.
CDs. He complained that CDs were not high enough quality compared to LPs, right? So
it's ironic because
like
he's about the worst singer who ever made it to the top.
Yeah, you may not want to hear him so clearly. No, but I appreciate what he's trying.
I'm gone. But I love Neil Young, and I've interviewed him about the Pono player. I bought a Pono player.
What's the name of the?
Pono.
Is it a Pico player?
Pono.
Oh, Pono player.
Like a little pony.
Yeah.
It carries your special music.
Yep. Well, now you don't need it anymore.
You do need a good DAC. And,
I guess you do need it technically.
An LG phone has a better DAC. The iPhone does not. You need a DAC that can do high-res audio, 9624.
I got to figure that out. I'm curious about this.
It'd be worth it if you have a nice stereo. You probably have a nice stereo, right?
No, not anymore.
I know.
We have decent speakers. I mean, but we just
it's for TV now, right? It's surround sound for your TV. Nobody has stereos anymore.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I kind of want to just test it. I'm just curious if even on my equipment, if I could notice a difference.
Yeah,
I hope so.
You'll think it sounds better.
There you go. Well, I think it sounds $4 a month better because that's kind of the bar.
Come on, that's one latte. Come on, do it.
I'll tell you, if they let me put my own music in the service like they used to, I'd have no problem using Amazon.
Yeah, I know that's disappointing, but I think nobody has their own music anymore.
I know
that's the reason.
Come on. The type of people who want this quality audio is the same audience that does have their own music.
That's true.
We're old people. You know,
I've bought a lot of high-res music. I bought a ton of it.
Right. Yeah. Like you'd actually buy high-end audio equipment just so you could use this.
I have a stereo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have $1,000 pair of headphones.
You got to cater to the crowd. Plus, by the way, this is the Walmart of retailers. It's the Walmart of online, certainly. I mean, and they're the ones coming up with this.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, and Neil Young said, "This is a great thing. I'm glad. I'm really happy. It's good."
Yeah.
It's good.
That's the first positive thing Neil Young has said in 30 seconds. So that's neat.
Pick two. This is an interesting change too, I thought.
Well, so this is another one I'm going to experiment with. So Pocket Cast 7.0 came out some months ago, and it was terrible. And I stopped using it. So I moved on to Castbox, which I like a lot. Since then, they've been scrambling to fix the problems and to answer the complaints, which frankly they should have done during their year-long beta, but whatever. So, but now they've launched 7.5, which is supposed to be a significant upgrade. I haven't looked at it yet, but the big news is this app is now free on mobile. So before, if you were into Pocket Cast, you had to buy it separately on every platform that you use. So you bought it for Windows, you bought it for the Mac, you bought it for the web, you bought it for iPhone, and you bought it for Android. I think that was maybe they didn't have all this, but at least certainly the web and the mobile version. Yeah, they did. Yeah,
and I love Pocket Cast. It's actually our number. After iTunes, it's our number 2 most used player for this show.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. All right, so this might help them retain that because it's free now on mobile, and they do have a subscription offering that I think is called Pocket Cast Plus, and that brings a couple of things. You can skin the app, have different themes and stuff. You could also bring in audio content that's not a podcast, and kind of put it into a listening list, which I think is kind of a cool idea. But if you just want to subscribe to podcasts and stuff, and you can do cloud sync and everything, but it's free on mobile. So, and you can still buy the other apps if you want to use it somewhere else. And I should say, if you ever paid for Pocket Cast for web, which I did, I think you get, this sounds crazy as I say it, but I
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
You know why? Yeah. It was bought by Public Radio, and they have a money-losing model.
Oh, well, they've mastered that model because this thing is like, it's not expensive. It's like even the Plus subscription is like $10 a year.
It was worth it for me because of the multiplayer sync, because I want to subscribe to my podcast on one device and have them available everywhere. That was worth it. I was glad to pay.
Right.
But apparently,
Castbox does that as well, by the way. But
yeah. Pocket Cast is good. I didn't mind the new skin as much as you did.
I hated it.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
I'm having a hard time even remembering the big issues, but it had to do with discoverability of features. And depending on the view, like things would work differently. Like you'd hide press on something to get a menu, and it would just be different depending on where you were in the UI. Like they really screwed it up. But I don't know. I have to say I'm kind of comfortable with the Castbox. So
good.
If this is really good, I would consider it. But I will take a look. Anyway, I just wanted people to know about it. But this one might be the single greatest pick I've ever had.
What?
And I wish I should be thanking the person that told me about this on Twitter, but of course I never remembered to do that. So I'm sorry, but thank you to the person that recommended this. One of the biggest requests we get at my website is for like a dark theme, right? This is like the new thing, like dark mode, in phones and everything.
When we launched our Twitch site, everybody yelled, "You're hurting my eyes."
Yeah, my retinas. I want to read your stuff, but it burns. It burns. So there's a Chrome extension, which, yes, works in the new Microsoft Edge, called Dark Mode that brings – I'm sorry, no, it's not called Dark Mode. It's called Dark Reader that basically brings like a dark mode to most of the web. You can actually do, apparently a website owner can specify somehow in their code that this won't work. So I know there are some Google sites that it doesn't flip over. Is it Google sites? Some sites it won't. It literally says it won't work, but you can configure this on a site-by-site basis. So if you want a certain site to be in dark mode, during, and another site not to be, you can do that. Let me go look at it now because you can. This is a cool, like when you click the little Darth Vader icon, there's all these different filters you can do for brightness and contrast, the tone of it, whether it's like grayscale or colored. You can set those on a per site basis or across the board. It's just this thing is awesome. And I will say on a perfectly selfish note, one of the things, if you actually watch this podcast, I'm really sorry. But if you do, like one of the problems is I sit and Mary Jo does and Leo does probably in front of Leo has studio lighting, so it's probably not as bad. But if I look at like a typical web page on my screen, it will light up my face. Right. So actually I'll bring up an app, see what happens. Whoop.
Yeah.
That's what a white display does. So when we use OneNote for our notes, and OneNote has a dark theme now, and now it doesn't light up my face when I look at the notes, and I don't have to hide it over in the corner. And now this is working for the web as well. So, for example, in the past, like I'd say, like there'd be a story in the notes. I'm like, I got to reference the story because I don't remember the exact details. The thing, it would light up my face. I'd have it like hiding down in the corner, so it would only light up part of my face or whatever. This thing is awesome. It's awesome. So you got to get this. Dark Reader.
Darkreader.org.
Yep.
Very nice. Now I think
I'm so happy I have this.
We should revive Mary Jo after that long stretch of Paul.
Yeah.
Right. Bob the audience.
Well, I've got some good things to talk about.
Good. Starting with your rumor of the week.
Right. So we know Microsoft's bringing Teams to Linux. We're pretty sure they're going to bring Credge to Linux based on hints. But did you know there are also hints that OneDrive client may be coming to Linux?
That would make me happy.
That would be bad.
You and 1,300 other people who now on user voice have begged Microsoft.
Can I ask a question about this?
Entire universe.
Would this impact Chromebook? Because I got to tell you, one of the biggest impediments for me with Chromebook is the fact that I don't get file system sync with OneDrive.
I would assume, right? If you go through the comments on user voice for people asking for this, there are people saying, if you put OneDrive on Linux, I would start using Office 365 instead of Dropbox to synchronize my files.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, if you're Microsoft, you have to weigh the benefits of this. Like, you don't want to help Chromebooks, but you do want to help your audience who have multiple different operating systems, and you want people to use OneDrive.
Yeah.
Sorry, just going to sneeze.
Do they have a OneDrive client for Linux? I don't think they do.
They do not right now.
Yeah, so they'd have to do that too.
Right, that's what they would have to do. OneDrive app for Linux, and the original request was on Ubuntu, but
you said OneDrive. I thought you said OneNote.
OneDrive.
OneDrive.
Yeah.
Okay.
OneDrive, the cloud storage app, which is everywhere else pretty much, right?
There are third-party tools. I use
there are
something called I think G-Sync that does it. And does it fine.
Yep.
Because there's an API, but it would be nice to have. I guess it'd be nice to have an official one.
Right. So the way I saw this, I think it was Rich Turner, who is the WSL and Windows Terminal guy. I think he was the one who tweeted, "Hey, would anybody out there be interested in OneDrive on Linux?" And he pointed to this. So they're trying to drum up, the comments, which makes me think they're trying to do this, or all they have to prove is there's a lot of demand for this, and we should do this.
Yeah.
Huh. With regards to that Linux running Windows thing, I mean, if you bring enough of what's unique on Windows to Linux, then we don't have to worry about running anything on Linux. It just would run.
Just run.
Yep, that's right. Yep. Yep.
Very interesting. All right, that's the rumor of the week.
It's a rumor, though, not an announcement. Although Ignite would be a great place to announce that if they wanted to make some announcements.
I think it's safe to say Microsoft's going to be moving more toward Linux in many ways.
Definitely moving more of their services and apps to Linux. And, I think it goes a little overboard when people say, now that WSL has a Microsoft-made Linux kernel, it means Windows is actually on Linux. No, guys, that's not what that means.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
Yeah. But, over 50% of workloads in Azure these days are on Linux and not on Windows Server.
Right,
so they're being very ecumenical in their support.
Steve Gibson.
Ecumenical.
Ecumenical. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Oh, no, that's a great word.
Steve
Too
Gibson.
religious for you?
Steve Gibson did a special show for Security Now, which will air on October 1st because he's going to be in Europe, about his conundrum. He wanted a trust no one file synchronization utility. He tried a bunch of them. And I won't tell you his winner, but it was not OneDrive.
Right. Well, yeah.
And it's funny because the one he picked does not work on Linux either, which means I'm not going to use it.
What does Steve Gibson use these days for an OS? Does he run Windows?
He runs Windows 7.
Right, not XP. He got off XP.
Oh yeah,
Used to,
Windows 7. I don't know what he's going to do in January. He'll probably stick with it.
He was like a general purpose. He used to write articles. Was he in Byte magazine or?
He was in InfoWorld.
InfoWorld, okay.
Yeah, and he was great. I used to read him before I met him. I used to read him religiously in InfoWorld. He's great. He was among the more technical writers over there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but he has always used Windows. And in fact, I've tried to get him to change to Linux, but his software SpinRite is a Windows tool, a DOS tool, to be honest. And so he's kind of needs to.
You can do
operate.
assembly language on Linux. In fact, these days that's probably
easier.
He
uses MASM.
A big use of assembly. He still uses MASM, like 6.0, whatever the last version.
And last time I asked him, he's writing it in Brief, which is a DOS editor.
Yeah, because MASM's a DOS environment.
Right. He lives in DOS. So I guess he doesn't really. I know, it's wild.
That's awesome.
It's wild. He says once he doesn't have to maintain SpinRite, he will move to BSD.
Wow.
Probably
BSD specifically.
Yeah.
He's already figured this out. That's amazing.
Steve says a lot of things. He also, for a while, was saying once he retires, his hobby is going to be write a new operating system for the PDP-11.
Wow.
The world's waiting, Steve.
You know what? Dave Cutler's available to help.
The world is waiting.
I would think.
He should try a more powerful computer like the Pi 4.
I know. Anything. Like anything.
Yeah.
I know. It's odd.
That's funny.
He's a quirky fella, but that's why we love him, right? That's what makes him interesting. Yeah. He's really, I think, the modern equivalent of Jerry Pournelle's Chaos Manor. It's like a real person using computers in a kind of idiosyncratic way, but a way you kind of get because you're a geek too. That's why I think Security Now is one of our most popular shows because of that, I think.
Yeah. No, I love Steve Gibson.
Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I'm not taking 10 grams of vitamin C a day, as he suggested, but
well, if you'd like the toilet to light up at night.
I was going to say, don't you turn orange when you do that?
It's got to be like a neon thing. I mean,
oh my God, can you imagine?
Ooh.
Oh, you should hear all the other stuff he's taken.
Space.
He has a vitamin.
Space station.
He said he did an overnight up here a couple of months ago. He had a vitamin bag with him. His friend said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, these are my supplements." It's like like a valise just for your supplements.
Yeah, he's gonna live forever.
Yeah, he's gonna live. Yep. He's gonna outlive us all.
He will.
Yep. Code name pick of the week, Mary Jo Foley.
Okay, so I haven't published this blog post yet, but I'm working on it. So I'm giving you a preview of a code name I'm going to write about this week. The code name is Project Saturn. And it has to do with Azure Stack. If you forget what Azure Stack is a version of Azure that works in users' data centers so that they can have a hybrid environment or a private cloud environment. Microsoft introduced Azure Stack in 2017. And for a year and a half or so, they would talk nonstop about Azure Stack. And I don't know if you've noticed, Paul, but they haven't talked much about Azure Stack this year at all.
Right.
And it's not because they're killing the product. It's not because people aren't using the product. The way you have to buy it is you have to buy it from certain hardware vendors like HP and Dell and Lenovo who pre-configure servers with it running. So that kind of limits the audience to some extent for it. But I heard this code name And I started piecing together what it might be. And I'll tell you, what I think it is somehow Microsoft reducing the need for you to have to get it on servers pre-configured. In other words, they may be using containers and virtualization in some way that it will be able to run on a bigger batch of hardware, maybe even users' own data center hardware. So I'm still a little iffy on all the details, but just in case you were wondering, Azure Stack lives, and it sounds like there's a new kind of retro version coming out where they're going to go back to what was their original vision for Azure Stack, which was it could run on users' own hardware that you already have. So stay tuned to All About Microsoft for more.
Maybe that's the future of Windows.
Yeah, we say that all the time,
Azure
right?
Stack and user license agreement.
Yeah. Well, we joke all the time how, and someday everything will just be in a container, right? Or everything will be virtualized, right? So, yeah.
Okay. I want some of this beer you've been talking about.
Oh man, this beer. This is some good beer.
All right.
Founders, one of our favorite craft beer providers out of Michigan. I thought I had like all of their beers, but no, I had not. I had not had Sumatra Mountain Brown. This is an imperial brown ale aged in bourbon barrels made with coffee. And if you like coffee, you would love this beer. I could see myself drinking this for breakfast, except I'd have to sleep all day afterwards because it's very strong. It doesn't taste boozy. It just tastes like this amazing, delicious, perfectly seasoned coffee beverage. It's a delight.
Very good.
It's really good.
Very good. Founders Sumatra Mountain
it's not
Brown.
light. It's 9%. So, you can't drink too many of them, but very chocolatey, coffee-ish. And not, what I liked was it's not boozy. Just a nice, smooth, perfect beer for fall.
A fall beer. A beer to make you fall.
If you have too many, you might fall, but yeah.
9%.
9%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sessionable if you only drink one.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like 15 or 17 like some bourbon barrels are, but
could be worse. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are done. Very nice show today. Thank you, Paul Thurrott. Thank you, Mary Jo Foley. You'll find Mary Jo Foley at allaboutmicrosoft.com, her ZDNet blog. Paul, you'll find about 4 p.m. in the no, he's at Thurrott.
Looking for that liver in the styrofoam container.
Yeah, Thurrott.com, THUROTT.com, and his books are at leanpub.com. Together, they do Windows Weekly here every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1700 UTC. Please stop by and listen live if you are around at that time. You can ask your Amazon Echo. You can say play Twit Live. Same thing with the Google Assistant. You could also go to twit.tv/live. We have live audio and video streams there. If you're doing the live thing, please, by all means, go into the chat room because that's a fun place to be. And that is irc.twit.tv. We have every version of the show, all 639 episodes at our website, twit.tv/WW, so you can go back and download all of those. But if you want to just kind of start now, get your Pocket Casts or your Apple Podcasts or your Google or whatever you listen to podcasts with and subscribe to Windows Weekly. That way you'll get it the minute it's available every Wednesday afternoon. Next week will be normal. In 2 weeks, we're going to be changing times a little bit because of the Microsoft event. We will be covering the Microsoft event probably early morning on Wednesday, October 1st or 2nd, October 2nd.
Yep, 2nd.
And then we're going to do Windows Weekly the next day. But I'll have more information about that next week for you. But just a little heads up. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Mary Jo. And I'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Thank you.